So nice to be here again. Mhm. Thanks for coming back. Today we're going to get into the next chapter, of course, Chapter 2 of Man and His Symbols by Carl Gustav Jung and his collaborators. As you can see, we have our kitties installed. We are ready. Are you ready? Buckle up, get your coffee, get your tea. Past and future in the unconscious. So far, I have been sketching some of the principles on which I approach the problem of dreams. For when we want to investigate man's faculty to produce symbols, dreams prove to be the most basic and accessible material for this purpose. The two fundamental points in dealing with dreams are these. First, the dream should be treated as a fact, about which one must make no previous assumption except that it somehow makes sense. And second, the dream is a specific expression of the unconscious. One could scarcely put these principles more modestly. No matter how anyone's opinion of the unconscious may be, he must concede that it is worth investigating. The unconscious is at least on a level with with the louse, which after all enjoys the honest interest of the entomologist. If somebody with little experience and knowledge of dreams thinks that dreams are just chaotic occurrences without meaning, he is at liberty to do so. But if one assumes that they are normal events, which as a matter of fact they are, one is bound to consider that they are either casual, i.e., that there is a rational cause for their existence, or in a certain way, purposive, purposive, or in a certain way, purposive, or both. Purposive, interesting. That's heavy. That's heavy. I think that's the first time I'm encountering that way of using the word purpose. I want to dig that up a little. I'm, I'm going to get into that because I want to really be able to get into that. Oh boy, the keyboard's all the way over there. The lovely assistants that I have today. Oh boy, they're just wonderful. Yeah. Okay, let's see what's going on with purposive here. Having servi- Having, serving, or done with a purpose.
Purposive.
Hmm. Thank you. That's insightful. Thank you. back to it then. But if one assumes that they are normal events, which as a matter of fact they are, one is bound to consider that they are either causal, i.e., causal, i.e., that there is a rational cause for their existence, or in a certain way, purposive, or both. Yes, indeed. We're already just starting into it, but it's already rich and deep. I mean, absolutely. Like that's why we that's why we write. That's why we go beyond just presence. Interesting. That's what compels the ego. Well, no, there is a certain fuel for the ego there, but interesting, interesting. I like that. That is challenging. I love it. All right. Let us now look a little more closely at the ways in which the conscious and unconscious contents of the mind are linked together. Well, yeah, okay. That's well, well done. Take an example with which everyone is familiar. Suddenly you find you can't remember what you were going to say next, though a moment ago the thought was perfectly clear. Or perhaps you were about to introduce a friend and his name escapes you as you were about to utter it. You say you can't remember. In fact, though, the thought has become unconscious, or at least momentarily separated from consciousness. We find the same phenomenon in our senses. If we listen to a continuous note on the fringe of audibility, the sound seems to stop at regular intervals and then start again. Such oscillations are due to a periodic decrease and increase in one's attention, not to any change in the note. Yeah, that's a not we're not talking about the Doppler effect there. Like this is like sort of a somatic Doppler effect, if you will. Um we all experience it, but we don't always invest attention on the fact that we're experiencing it. So intention and attention, right? And energy, like 369. It's beautiful. Thus, part of the unconscious consists of a multitude. Oh, wait. Yeah, but when something slips out of our consciousness, it does not cease to exist. Right, well, does it though? Hmm. But when something slips out of our consciousness, it does not cease to exist any more than a car that has disappeared round a corner has vanished into thin air. It is simply out of sight. Just as we may later see the car again, so we come across thoughts that were temporarily lost to us. Uh-huh. Thus, part of the unconscious consists of a multitude of temporarily obscured thoughts, impressions, and images that, in spite of being lost, continue to influence our unconscious minds. A man who is distracted or absent minded will walk across the room to fetch something. He stops, seemingly perplexed. He has forgotten what he was after. His hands grope about among the objects on the table as if he were sleepwalking. He is oblivious of his original purpose, yet he is unconsciously guided by it. Then he realizes what it is that he wants. His unconscious has prompted him. And I mean, synchronicities are so impressive and astounding. Like I'm a little bit, you probably are picking up. My mind is a little bit pulled in other directions at the present moment, and I'm not as we'll say accurate with my reading, I guess. As a result, it's a very practical kind of example of it, but hmm, hmm, thoughtful. If you observe the behavior of a neurotic person, you can see him doing many things that he appears to be doing consciously and purposefully. Yet if you ask him about them, you will discover that he is either unconscious of them or has something quite different in mind. He hears and does not hear. He sees, yet is blind. He knows and is ignorant. Such examples are so common that the specialist soon realizes that unconscious contents of the mind behave as if they were conscious, and that you can never be sure in such cases whether thought, speech, or action is conscious or not. It is this kind of behavior that makes so many physicians dismiss statements by hysterical patients as utter lies. Such persons certainly produce more untruths than most of us, but lie is scarcely the right word to use. In fact, their mental state causes an uncertainty of behavior because their conscious is liable to unpredictable eclipse by an interference from the unconscious. Even their skin sensations may reveal similar fluctuations of awareness. At one moment, the hysterical person may feel a needle prick in the arm. At the next, it may pass unnoticed. If his attention can be focused on a certain point, the whole of his body can be completely anesthetized until the tension that causes this blackout of the senses has been relaxed. Sense perception is then immediately restored. All the time, however, he has been unconsciously aware of what was happening. Oh man, like I'm gonna segue off again on that point. I am familiar with the study, and perhaps you have come across it too, or experiment. I don't know whether this one seems like a little bit of both. Um, the idea was that sort of along the lines of the what do they call it, ghost limb, phantom limb, um, sort of along those lines, very akin to that anyway, but I think it's a little bit different. Anyway, the the participant is undergoing some sort of tactile stimulation, I guess you'd call it, like probing on their hand, on the back of their hand. Um, and the participant has both their hands on, I believe they have their hands up on the, like the arms of their chair, for example, or maybe up on the desk in front of them. However, there's a screen covering one of their hands, and they can see one hand but not the other. Let's say they can see their left hand but they can't see their right hand. I think I've got it right so far. Um, and then, so the experimenter is like sort of touching the back of the person's hand with a pen or with a pokey device of some sort or something, and then they're sort of progressively escalating the stimulus such that you know they eventually get to a hammer, and they the hand that the person doesn't see, they take the hammer and whack, but it's not actually their hand. They have a, oh wait, no, that's what it is. They replace the hand that they can't see with a dummy hand and make the person, I can't remember how they do it. Maybe it's through a video screen or something. I can't remember quite how it was done, but um, they smash this dummy hand anyway with the hammer, and the person reacts as though their hand was smashed, right? Like, not, I don't mean it starts to their bones break and bleeding or anything like that. I mean their psychic reaction kind of thing. Anyway, I guess that's an extreme version of that, but yeah, what a, our mind is so powerful, so amazing, so magical, really miraculous. Yeah. Oh, just incredible. Where did I get to now? It is this kind of behavior that makes so many physicians dismiss. No, we got that all the time. Is being yeah. The physician can see this process quite clearly when he hypnotizes such a patient. It is easy to demonstrate that the patient has been aware of every detail. The prick in the arm or the remark made during an eclipse of consciousness can be recalled as accurately as if there had been no anesthesia or forgetfulness. I recall a woman who was once admitted to the clinic in a state of complete stupor. When she recovered consciousness next day, she knew who she was, but did not know where she was, how or why she had come there, or even the date. Yet, after I had hypnotized her, she told me why she had fallen ill, how she had got to the clinic, and who had admitted her. All these details could be verified. She was even able to tell the time at which she had been admitted, because she had seen a clock in the entrance hall. Under hypnosis, her memory as clear as if she had completely uh, was as clear as if she had been completely conscious all the time. Yeah. When we discuss such matters, we usually have to draw on evidence supplied by clinical observation. For this reason, many critics assume that the unconscious and all its subtle manifestations belong solely to the sphere of psychopathology. They consider any expression of the unconscious as something neurotic or psychotic, which has nothing to do with the normal mental state. But neurotic phenomena are by no means the products exclusively of disease. They are in fact no more than pathological exaggerations of normal occurrences. It is only because they are exaggerations that they are more obvious than their normal counterparts. Hysterical symptoms can be observed in all normal persons, but they are so slight that they usually pass unnoticed. Well, that's just it, right? All of these, um, I guess, expressions of unwellness, mental health illnesses, or whatever terminology we want to apply here. All over the world, we have different levels of understanding and awareness and language to speak to these sort of things. But ultimately, it all comes from the well within. Yeah. Forgetting, for instance, is a normal process in which certain conscious ideas lose their specific energy because one's attention has been deflected. When interest turns elsewhere, it leaves in the shadow the things with which one was previously concerned, just as a searchlight lights upon a new area by leaving another in darkness. This is unavoidable, for consciousness can keep only a few images in full clarity at one time, and even this clarity fluctuates. Hmm. Yeah, but is that true? The human condition, right? It's almost like a crutch, like an excuse, like a fallback. I wonder, I wonder, is it really the case that we only have capacity to dwell on? Hmm. But the forgotten ideas have not ceased to exist. Although they cannot be reproduced at will, they are present in a subliminal state just beyond the threshold of recall, from which they can rise again spontaneously at any time, often after many years of apparently total oblivion. I am speaking here of things we have consciously seen or heard, and subsequently forgotten. But we all see, hear, smell, and taste many things without noticing them at the time, either because our attention is deflected, or because the stimulus to our senses is too slight to leave a conscious impression. The unconscious, however, has taken note of them, and such subliminal sense perceptions play a significant part in our everyday lives. Without our realizing it, they influence the way in which they influence. Oh boy, words and mouths and tongues and lips and all the things are all over the place today. This one too. Look at this. Look at this. Yeah, look at this blessing of a furball love monster. Oh, so good. Hmm. Without our realizing it, they influence the way in which we react to both events and people. Oh my. That is, that really, and I'm sure we're going to look at that down the path here, but that really underlines how important it is to be present, doesn't it? It really does, because habits form out of these unperceived, undetected, you know, invited in, but not really noticed. Like we create these unwittingly, albeit, but notwithstanding, they remain true. Ignorance is not so blissful, right? Mm, mm. Every paragraph powerfully punching, pungent, potency into perpetuity. Oh, this is so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Let's go on. An example of this that I found particularly revealing was provided by a professor. Wow, the profundity. Uh-huh. Who had been working in the country with one of his pupils, absorbed in serious conversation. Yeah, I can't make this up. I mean, suddenly he noticed that his thoughts were being interrupted by an unexpected flow of memories from his early childhood. He could not account for this distraction. Nothing in what had been said seemed to have any connection with these memories. On looking back, he saw that he had been walking past a farm with the first of these childhood recollections had when the first of these childhood recollections had surged up in his mind. He suggested to his pupil that they should walk back to the point where the fantasies had begun. Once there, he noticed the smell of geese, and instantly he realized that it was this smell that had touched off the flow of memories. I mean, that's why I stopped, right? That's why I stopped to look up our newly suffixed. I hadn't seen the way that purpose had been devised before, and look at that, purposive is newly added to my vernacular. So I've heard it said, and I feel it's true. A good mate of mine back in the day actually mentioned this. Uh, Martin, if you're listening, or if ever you hear this, thank you. It has served me well. If you're reading, this is an example of the last paragraph's point. Another example, my example that I'll bring to bear. If you're reading and you encounter a word or a concept or a new idea that that distracts you, ostensibly, what we're talking about very much here, your mind really will stop at that paragraph, and you can continue reading. The words will be parroted by your mind's eye or whatever. If you're reading aloud, you'll continue reading aloud, but really your mind and your heart and your gut have stopped back there at that purposive, your own purposive that you didn't encounter, and you didn't fully give the present to. You know what I mean? Um, the present, yeah, beautiful. So it is that if we encounter a situation in life that's new, it's important to go through it, to smell it, to taste it, to feel it, to embody yourself, not your values. Yes, it's important to understand what you stand for, but your values, our values are continually reinforced by how we are in each now, in each present. Oh, that's so heavy. That's so beautiful. It's heavy sometimes. It is indeed heavy. Hmm. But but if we remember that this this furry example right here that's in my lap and noodled and just so blissful in the moment, right? She's not ignorant. She's not in ignorance. She's in bliss. She's well aware of where her bread is buttered, and she does all the things so that she can live this bliss as much as possible. And this one also, she has much more experience doing that, so she is much more in her bliss, as you can see. This one is a little bit more excited about her bliss still. Yeah, they're both in total bliss, though. Infinite bliss. Mm. Lessons, truths. Wonderful. Thank you. In his youth, he had lived on a farm where geese were kept, and their characteristic smell had left a lasting, though forgotten, impression. As he passed the farm on his walk, he had noticed the smell subliminally, and this unconscious perception had called back long forgotten experiences of his childhood. The perception was subliminal because the attention was engaged elsewhere, and the stimulus was not strong enough to deflect it and to react consciousness directly. To reach consciousness directly, apologies. Yet it had brought up the forgotten memories. Yeah, yeah. I really like that line in that great poem by the 21 Pilots. Lane Boy, the candle. If I could make a candle of that smelled like home, I'd only sell two. But that's all you'd need. Yeah, thank you. Such a cue or trigger effect can explain the onset of neurotic symptoms as well as more benign memories when a slight smell or sound recalls a circumstance in the past. Yeah, there it is. A girl, for instance, may be busy in her office, apparently in good health and spirits. A moment later, she develops a blinding headache and shows other signs of distress. Without consciously noticing it, she has heard the forgot the foghorn of a distant ship, and this has unconsciously reminded her of an unhappy parting with a lover whom she has been doing her best to forget. Aside from normal forgetting, Freud has described several cases that involve the forgetting of disagreeable memories. Memories that one is only too ready to lose. As Nietzsche remarked, where pride is insistent enough, memory prefers to give way. Thus, among the lost memories, we encounter not a few that owe their subliminal state and their incapacity to be voluntarily reproduced to their disagreeable and incompatible nature. The psychologist calls these repressed contents. Hmm. This is where a lot of danger can come into play. Now the light is starting to dwindle. A case in point might be that of a secretary who is jealous of one of her employer's associates. She habitually forgets to invite this person to meetings, though the name is clearly marked on the list she is using. But if challenged on the point, she simply says she forgot or was interrupted. She never admits, not even to herself, the real reason for her omission. She doesn't even detect it. I mean, let's be real. Many people mistakenly overestimate the role of willpower and think that nothing can happen to their minds, that they do not decide and intend. Aha, that's what I'm saying. That's where it's dangerous, right? But one must learn to discriminate carefully between intentional and unintentional contents of their mind. I mean, we feel this, we so feel this, and we sometimes just let go, right? We just let it. hmm The former are derived from the ego personality. The latter, however, arise from a source that is not identical with the ego, but is its other side. It is this other side that we would have made the secretary forget. That would have made, sorry. It is this other side that would have made the secretary forget the invitations. There are many reasons why we forget things that we have noticed or experienced, and there are just as many ways in which they may be recalled in mind. An interesting example is that of cryptomnesia, or concealed recollection. An author may be writing steadily to a preconceived plan, working out an argument, or developing the line of a story, when he suddenly runs off at a tangent. Perhaps a fresh idea has occurred to him, or a different image, or a whole new subplot. If you ask him what prompted the digression, he will not be able to tell you. He may not even have noticed the change, though he has now produced material that is entirely fresh and apparently unknown to him before. Yet it can sometimes be shown convincingly that what he has written bears a striking similarity to the work of another author, a work that he believes he has never seen. I myself found a fascinating example of this in Nietzsche's book, The Spook. Oh, sorry, I need a little more light for this one. The Spake Zarathustra. Oh, yes. The Spake Zarathustra, where the author reproduces almost word for word an ancient reported incident reported in a ship's log for the year 1686. By sheer chance, I had read this seaman's yarn in a book published around 1835, half a century before Nietzsche wrote. And when I found this similar passage in Thus Spake Zarathustra, I was struck by its peculiar style, which was different from Nietzsche's usual language. I was concerned that Nietzsche must also have seen the old book, though he made no reference to it. I wrote to his sister, who was still alive, and she confirmed that she and her brother had in fact read the book together when he was 11 years old. I think, from the context, it is inconceivable that Nietzsche had any idea that he was plagiarizing this story. I believe that 50 years later it had unexpectedly slipped into focus in his conscious mind. Oh, that's so brilliant. That's so, like, on time for me. Right on point. Like, yeah, I've been walking through a whole forest of those. In this type of case, there is genuine, if unrealized, recollection. Much of the same sort of thing may happen to a musician who has heard a peasant tune or popular song in childhood and finds it cropping up as a theme of a symphonic movement that he is composing in adult life. An idea or an image has moved back from the unconscious into the conscious mind. What I have so far said about the unconscious is no more than a cursory sketch of the nature and functioning of this complex part of human psyche, but it should have indicated the kind of subliminal material from which the symbols of our dreams may be spontaneously produced. This subliminal material can consist of all urges, impulses, and intentions, all perceptions and intuitions, all rational or irrational thoughts, conclusions, inductions, deductions, and premises, and all variety of feeling. Any or all of these can take the form of partial, temporary, or constant unconsciousness. And that's just it. Like, that's why it's important to be self-aware, to look at, to do the shadow work, right? To whatever you want to call it. I really like the shadow work because of the concepts, the archetypes, the um, symbol focus, and that. Like, but whatever language you find the most useful to you, like, oh, the shadow work, yeah, 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 yeah. Such material has mostly become unconscious because, in a manner of speaking, there is no room for it in the conscious mind. Some of one's thoughts lose their emotional energy and become subliminal. That is to say, they no longer receive so much of our conscious attention because they have come to seem uninteresting or irrelevant, or because there is some reason why we wish to push them out of sight. It is in fact normal and necessary for us to forget in this fashion in order to make room in our conscious minds for new impressions and ideas. If this did not happen, everything we experienced would remain above the threshold of consciousness and our minds would become impossibly cluttered. This phenomenon is so widely recognized today that most people who know anything about psychology take it for granted. But just as consciousness, well, I'll pause for a moment just in case I notice that there's a little blip in the electric world going on. The overload. It's okay, we're good, we're back to normal. I'll read the last sentence just to be sure. This phenomenon is so widely recognized today that most people who know anything about psychology take it for granted. That is the realm of the unconscious operating and still directing and influencing quite heavily the conscious. But just as consciousness con- just as consciousness contents can vanish into the unconscious, new contents which have never yet been conscious can arise from it. One may have an inkling, for instance, that something is on the point of breaking into consciousness, that something is in the air, or that one smells a rat, or something. The discovery that the unconscious is no more depository of the past. I mean, like, ugh, it's almost insulting to just think of it that low. But is also full of germs of future psychic situations and ideas. Germs, in that sense, just because it's important. Um, Germs like the seeds. Germs are germ, not necessarily like the pathogen germ, more like uh, germ, like wheat germ, the exterior of the, yeah, of the living corpus inside the seed. So again, the discovery that the unconscious is no more depository of the past, but is also full of germs of future psychic situations and ideas, led me to my own new approach to psychology. A great deal of controversial discussion has arisen around this point, but it is a fact that in addition to memories from a long distant conscious past, completely new thoughts and creative ideas can also present themselves from the unconscious. Thoughts and ideas that have never been conscious before. They grow up from the dark depths of the mind, like a lotus, and form a most important part of the subliminal psyche. I want to pause here. We've heard subliminal quite a bit in this in this chapter so far today. And liminal. Let's just look at liminal first. I mean, let's get it. Let's get down to it, right? Let's do it. Why settle for? Let's get right into it. Just as we did with purposive, let's get some really good solid. So first, let's look at liminal, because a popular phenomenon lately has been the topic of liminal spaces. It's not as much on point on mind these days, but
Liminal.
occupying a position at or on both sides of a boundary or threshold. Liminal. Or relating to a transitional or initial stage of a process. I was in the liminal space between the past and the present. That liminal period when a child is old enough to begin following basic rules but is still too young to do so consistently. Now, let's add the prefix sub and make it subliminal, sublime, sublimate. Not really, but yes, it is the same. And so,
Subliminal.
oh, a little bit more subtle with the lady. It's considered a psychology term, an adjective of a stimulus or mental process below the threshold of sensation or consciousness, perceived by or affecting someone's mind without their being aware of it. It's interesting that they have the same spirit, right? Liminal being the in between space, in between the known and the familiar and the completely foreign, and yet still effective. Affective. Indeed. Yes. I dig it. Thank you. Yeah. We find this in everyday life, where dilemmas are sometimes solved by the most surprising new propositions. Many artists, philosophers, and even scientists owe some of their best ideas to inspirations that appear suddenly from the unconscious. The ability to reach a rich vein of such material and to translate it effectively into philosophy, literature, music, or scientific discovery is one of the hallmarks of what is commonly called genius. We find clear proof of this fact in the history of science. In itself, for example, the French mathematician Poincaré and the chemist Kekulé owed important scientific discoveries, as they themselves admit, to sudden pictorial revelations from the unconscious. The so-called mystical experience of the French philosopher Descartes involved a similar sudden revelation in which he saw in a flash the order of all sciences. The British author Robert Louis Stevenson had spent years looking for a story that would fit his strong sense of man's double being. I doth quote. When the plot of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde was suddenly revealed to him in a dream, Later, I shall describe in more detail how such material arises from the unconscious, and I shall examine the form in which it is expressed. At the moment, I am simply want to point out that the capacity of the human psyche to produce such new material is particularly significant when one is dealing with dream symbolism. For I have found again and again in my professional work that the images and ideas that dreams contain cannot possibly be explained solely in terms of memory. They express new thoughts that have never yet reached the threshold of consciousness. And my judgment is definitely not anything, to say the least, superior to Mr. Jung's. And so we will break there as he has set a nice pause for us to do. First, we will look at I'll show you the image that is included with that chapter's ending. It's hard to make this one out, I realize, because it's rather small. There's that, and this smaller one. That's the, oh, I forget the name of that symbol, the serpent eating its tail. It's a very popular, common symbol in, well, in the ancient, pre-ancient even, um, writing and even cave art. Oh, I can't think of the name of the serpent. I'm sorry, but yeah, a quick search you'll find it. The serpent eating its own tail. The 19th century German chemist Kekulé, researching into the molecular structure of benzene, dreamed of a snake with its tail in its mouth. This is an age-old symbol left, a representation of it from a 3rd century BC Greek manuscript. He interpreted the dream to mean that the structure was a closed carbon ring, as on the page above, from his textbook of organic chemistry of 1861. Looks like it's in Latin, I think. That small picture we looked at first. That is beautiful. Yes, I will follow the wisdom of Mr. Jung, who chose to pause there for us and start another chapter for our next session. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. I really enjoy being able to share this together. Thank you. Until next time, I wish you only the best. May this be of highest service to your highest self. Thank you.